This video is about how I built my Kerosene Gasification Grill. I'll go into detail of each step, how I put it together. Basically what I wanted to do was take a Perfection stove, a 3-burner stove, and move the components together and make a gas grill that I hoped would be at least equal to a regular propane gas grill. And as it turned out, it's superior because it cooks better. Okay, so to start, I was not going to design my own gas grill body. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. It seems like every fall or spring you will see gas grills either at the recycling center or alongside the road. The people are getting rid of them. The problem is most of the gas grills, they've got steel burners, and the steel burners rot out in 2 or 3 years, and very few people bother to go online and buy the stainless replacement burners to get them back in operation and make them last. They just put them out beside the road and go buy another one. So I didn't search too far, and I found a 2-year-old Uniflame GBC 1103W. It's a 2-burner, 2700 BTU, very good chassis, and the burners were rusted out. So I stripped it down, and then I started the rebuild. Okay, the next step, you remove the rotted burner, and you get the tub out, and then you have to cut a slot in the bottom of the tub to allow the chimneys to put heat up into the grate area. Now, the important distance is from the top of the chimney to the grate, and in this case, again, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. Perfection figured it out decades ago, a good 100 years, and it was 2 inches from the chimney top to the cooking grate, and I decided to keep it because from 1906 on, they never changed it. It just works. So then I had to shoehorn the 3 burners into that tub, and so I had to tighten it up, the spacing between the burners, to get it so that it would all fit inside the tub. The kerosene feed tube is a 3/8 inch black iron pipe. That's what the factory used. That's what I used. And by doing some mock-ups, I determined that the closest practical distance between the kerosene feed ports was 6 3/8 inches. You got to have just enough clearance for the chimneys so they don't touch each other, but they've got to be as close together as possible so you can get some even heat on the cooking surface. And I decided to build a heavy stainless steel heat diffuser to diffuse the heat, so I'd have an even cook on the grate. Most of the factories, they use a thin piece of tin or steel. I used quite heavy stainless steel, so that once you get that warm, you get a very even heat. Okay, the next step in the process is you've got to get the Kerosene Reservoir well attached to the side of the body, so that with enough room so that you can put your gallon jug of kerosene on it, and then you've got to take that and attach it to the kerosene pipe. Now, back in the day, the Perfection Stove Company used a straight untapered thread, and that is quite hard to acquire today. So what I ended up doing was I used a brass nipple, as you can see, to connect the iron to the well, because the brass nipples are always, at least the ones that I found, they're always untapered thread. So I use plenty of Teflon tape to tighten the threads up, and you got to make sure that your Teflon tape is rated for a petrochemical. So that screws into the well or the reservoir. Then you've got a standard 45-degree iron elbow, and then that threads into your black iron feed pipe. Okay, now you have to drill and tap your feed pipe so that you can get your 6 3/8 inch spacing. You can't use a factory-made fuel pipe because the spacing is too wide. So when I purchased the ports, I discovered that the Schwartz company was using the same stuff that Perfection used back in 1906. They used a 1/4-32 thread, and the only place you can find it would be to order it from Schwartz. Well, I decided to just take a 1/4 inch Allen, and which is a 1/4-28, so you can pick up a tap anywhere for that. Then I used a lathe. I had a friend take a lathe, and we drilled down through the 1/4 inch Allens. Then the hole size on that was 0.135 inch, 0.135. And then while I was in the lathe, I had him take down the diameter of the Allen head to an original factory dimension of 0.303 inch, and that would fit inside the burner feed hole of 0.307 inch. And then you use the modern plastic seal on the feed pipe. The originals used lead, and what they're using now at the Schwartz company in Bern, Indiana, is a nylon material. And so basically you drill a hole, tap it at standard machining, and then screw your feed port with the seal into the pipe, and gently tighten it down. The burners, I acquired some used burners because at this stage I wasn't sure just how well this thing was going to work, and at about $100 a pop on burners, I was just going to use some used ones. So I got those installed and clamped down, as you can see. And the big problem was the chimneys. I was using original Perfection chimneys. The clamp ring at the top, where they clamped the three pieces of the old chimneys together, they touched. At that time, I determined I've got to have modern one-piece spun chimneys from Schwartz. But at this time, we just put it together and checked it out. So with the the chimneys in place, we put the kerosene jug on and let the burners wet up, and there was no leaks, which was kind of what I intended. So next, I set the tub on, and we did a test cook with the unit as it was just kind of cobbled together to see how it would cook, and it seemed to cook pretty well. There didn't appear to be any hot or cold spots. It was a fairly even heat across the stainless steel diffuser. I did notice towards the end of the cook that as the burners heated up and the brass expanded, the burners started to leak. So I guess that is why the burners were taken off the stoves way back when and replaced. What I need to do is take those sometime and resolder them, and then they'll be as good as new. Okay, so I got out my FLIR adapter on my smartphone, and I did some infrared pictures. And the first image you see here, it looks like it is a fairly even heat all the way across it. The black indicates that it's beyond the range of the FLIR. The second image seems to show a cool spot right over burner number 2, the center burner, which I found kind of odd. It was reading 50 degrees cooler, but when you cooked on it, it didn't seem to matter. There was no noticeable difference. So I'm not too sure what's going on with that, but the first test was very encouraging. Made me want to acquire new parts and put it together right. So now that I decided to order new parts, I could have just ordered them from Schwartz Manufacturing, or I could have ordered them from Shuttler's Wholesale. They carry them. But I decided I wanted to see the Schwartz factory. So I took a trip to Bern, Indiana, and watched them make pre-war perfection stoves and ranges. And I picked up 3 burners with wicks and 3 new style one-piece chimneys. So then when I got back home, I installed the 3 new burners, and you can see they're all nice and shiny, and these are not going to leak. So next was I unpacked the chimneys and very carefully slid the Iceland glass into position on the chimneys, and then set them on the burners. And as you can see, I've got just a little bit of clearance, which is what I was shooting for. So once that was completed, I went ahead and did another test burn, and this time the wind was blowing a little bit, and I discovered that there are limitations to using an indoor burner outside in the breeze. They do not like breezes. So what I decided to do is I wrapped the grill frame in aluminum flashing and then painted it black to match the frame, and this kind of creates a dead air space that really cuts down on the flaring of the burners. Okay, so we did a cook with some pork chops and Rivergate chicken and some boneless spare ribs, hamburgers, hot dogs. I mean, we cooked everything on it, and everything worked really well. It seems to cook very fast. The picture with the 4 big chickens, that those were 2-pound halves. It was 45 minutes to get them cooked. We flipped them, but we never moved them around the grate. It was just flipping top for bottom. And from that, we just discovered that the atomized grease was going up onto the cover, condensing, rolling down the cover, and dripping down onto the ground. So I got a cookie sheet and placed it under the burners, and as you can see, that tended to catch almost all the grease, and it seemed to work very well. Now if you notice the kerosene jug, that was full when we started cooking those 4 big halves of chicken. That was about 3 pints. What you're seeing is it's hanging on the drain, and because I wanted to measure just how much I had used, and the three 8,000 BTU burners giving me 24,000 was a little bit less than the 27,000 of the gas grill version, but it seems like it cooks really fast, probably because of the even heat, because of the diffuser. So each gallon of kerosene gives you 138,000 BTUs. You only get 93,000 for a gallon of propane. So each gallon of kerosene, you're getting way more heat potential. So at $3.39 a gallon, we did all that cooking for $1 or so, and we're very pleased with the unit. It gets high marks from the cooker and also from the people that are eating, because there is no burn. We also noticed that there is no flare. A normal gas grill will flare and tend to char food. This one does not. You can't make it flare. We do not go back to the gas grill. That has been relegated to the back of the barn, and we use the gasification grill all the time. And no, it does not taste like kerosene. Although, really, is there anything the matter with that?